Okay, well, welcome. It's lovely to have you here, and really looking forward to hearing more about your experiences at the University of Glasgow and learning more about what you've gone on to do since graduating. So, I guess it would probably make sense if we all start by introducing ourselves. And if maybe you could tell me a little bit about where you're from, what you studied at Glasgow, and what you're currently doing. So, Oscar, do you want to start?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Leslie, and hello all. Nice to meet you. Well, my name is Oscar. I'm originally from Peru, and I graduated from the Earth Futures program at the University of Glasgow in 2021. And I currently work as an environmental consultant, and I offer different consultancy services, mainly related to environmental marine sciences to different organizations and companies. And at the same time, I'm additionally exploring new opportunities to pursue a PhD in my field.
Okay, sounds really interesting. Lots of more questions to come, I think, on all of those things. Tom, what about you?
Okay, hi, my name is Tom. I'm from Nigeria. I graduated from the Master of Research program at the University of Glasgow. That was last year, interestingly. Yeah, so I moved on to the University of Oklahoma, where I'm currently pursuing my PhD in chemical engineering. Basically, well, my research for the most part borders around using computational approaches to design catalysts for mostly renewable energy applications. So it's a lot of like using computational tools, process simulation tools and all of that. But the end goal is trying to like look for new catalysts that will really help the renewable energy space. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. And Irene.
Yeah, thank you, Leslie. Hello, everyone. My name is Irene. I'm from Indonesia. I graduated from Glasgow Uni back in 2022 with an MSc in Sustainable Energy. Well, of course, through the support from British Council's Women in STEM scholarship. So that was a major part of my life as well. I'm now an analyst at a company called LCP Delta. We are a energy transition research and consultancy firm based in the UK, but we're also part of a bigger financial institution called LCP, which also deals with financial advisory and also pension and investment related advisory as well. So, well, yeah, as I said, I am an analyst working mostly for consultancy projects, and it spans anywhere within the energy transition scope. It can go from power and the network section and all down to the customer side of how the energy transition is affecting us effectively. So yeah, that's probably all about me for now. Thank you.
Okay, Irene, should we stay with you? I mean, everybody's mentioned a little bit there about what they're doing at the moment, which all sounds very, interesting. Do you want to just maybe say a little bit more about your current role? I don't know, maybe what a sort of typical day might look like, or some of the things. I know there's, if there is such a thing, but maybe some of the things you particularly enjoy about the role you're doing at the moment. And let's stick with you, Irene.
Yeah, sure, no worries. Yeah, as I said, I mainly work for consultancy projects. So the kind of projects that I'm working for is really varied. It can go, from modeling how the energy network is just interacting with each other in the UK because it's quite complex here, the energy market that the UK is having. And also it can also be something like advising maybe governments or regulatory institutions to come up with new regulatory framework, because as we know, the energy scape is always ever changing. So it's something really exciting about it. And what I do as an analyst um, is typically to try to help the client to solve their own problems. So that can be just doing something as simple as doing a market research, engaging with the consumer, to something more complicated as modeling how energy is actually working around the house, maybe simple, something like that. So yeah, it's a really exciting space, I can tell you that, Leslie.
Yeah, and do you think the sort of the knowledge and the skills and things that you sort of, I guess, picked up and learned as part of your masters, do you sort of see yourself using those skills sort of day to day in your current role?
Yes, yes, absolutely. I mean, because I did sustainable energy, and I'm now working in the energy transition, so that
Yeah.
really correlates a lot. And particularly because I did my dissertation doing techno-economical analysis,
Hmm.
that really, translate a lot to what I'm doing right now. Working with, trying to estimate, like, for example, the levelized cost of energy, levelized cost of storage or hydrogen, and predicting how it's going to look like in the future. So it is, I think, whatever I've been learning at Glasgow Uni really, really helped me with what I'm doing right now. And well, this is a total TMI, but I've actually worked with one of the professor from Sustainable Energy before in an actual, real life
Oh,
project. So
really?
that was, yeah, yeah, we had an innovation project, which includes Glasgow Uni as the subject matter expert, working with SPEN, Scottish Power Energy Network, as the lead network. So that was pretty fun. I can tell you that.
It's nice when you feel like you've
Yeah,
come full circle.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Thank you, Irene. And Oscar, I don't know if you want to say a little bit more about your role and maybe what you particularly enjoy about what you do.
Yeah, sure. So, well, as Irene was mentioning, I also work in consultancy. So I mainly work for different organizations and different, mainly NGOs that want to develop a project related to marine conservation, mainly fishery sustainability, and also sustainable seafood markets. So what I do is mainly engage with them, trying to understand what they want to achieve, and put together a project, right? So help them frame the project, their objectives, and their different deliverables, and then try to do a little bit of project management in terms of delivering those objectives and the projects within an expected scope and time frame, right? And what I particularly enjoy from my job is that I see a lot of issues and different themes come up in for every client or every organization, and they have different goals that they want to achieve. So I think it's pretty dynamic on that sense. And also, I particularly like that um, I get to engage with a lot of organizations and people, and within their own network ecosystem, let's say like that,
Mm.
and internationally sometimes. So that is really interesting to always have this switching in different themes and different issues that you can cover and see and learn from a lot of perspectives and a lot of backgrounds from different persons.
So yeah, so I guess for you, no day really is ever the same. Sounds like
Yeah.
lots of variety and new challenges all the time. And I guess that Tom, coming to you, so you've chosen to go and carry on in the academic field, and you've embarked on your PhD. It would be interesting just to hear a little bit about how that's going and how you're enjoying that move into continuing with your academic direction of travel.
All right. Thank you so much. Okay, so I mean, research is, there is no blueprint, right? Exactly. Yeah. So let me talk about the interesting part is that you're working on something new, right? And there is an open landscape, right? You have like options of the things you want to choose for your study, so like for instance, I do more of simulations, right? Process simulations, chemical engineering, plant simulations, trying to do some kinetic calculations and stuff like that. I mean, just to understand how materials that can work as catalysts behave and all of that. And it's also worthy to mention here that I did my master's in Glasgow in industrial heterogeneous catalysis. So it was mostly looking at industry valid catalysts, right? So it was purely experimental in Glasgow, right? But now I'm more of on the computational part where I just do a lot of simulation, try to understand if this material is good for application for producing, say, energy from biomass, right? I try to look at what chemical properties, right, gives it that functionality. So with that, you can start thinking, oh, what alternative materials can I use, right? If I can get calculations from an established catalyst, I can think of there should be an alternative, right? I do computations for a wide range of materials and look at the ones that have the same properties, right? That way, you can think of, okay, this could be a cheaper alternative to the certain catalyst and all of that. So you have like a wide range of things to work on, right? And it can get overwhelming, but the good
Mm.
part is that it's an open field. Basically, you just play with that. And then I just thought about what Irene said. She talked about techno-economic analysis, so not just about doing simulations, basically, right? That's not the only focus of things I do. I try to incorporate some techno-economic analysis, right? Because if you are selecting a new material, a new process, you need to be sure that it is economically viable, right? So yeah, a typical work day, it's such an interesting space, right? I mean, you kind of like sleep, but you keep thinking, oh yeah, I should have done this thing a particular way, right? Because again, it's an open field, right? You can do as much as you want to. Recently, I was trying to do some techno-economic analysis. So when she mentioned something about levelized cost, I was trying to look at how to go about that, right? So with research, you get to like learn a lot of things, right? You try to like get stuff, even when you do not know it, but that is one of the things you gain from a PhD for the most part, because you learn how to be independent, solution oriented, and all of that. So it's a fun experience. And
Mm.
again, I always want to use an opportunity to make sure to remind people that doing a PhD doesn't mean you have to be in academia, right?
No,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Recently, I went to Chevron
Yeah.
Phillips. We had an internship. We had a short visit there, and you could see people that are doing research, right? So it's you can do anything with it. Yeah, it's a fun thing. It's a fun thing. Thank you.
Well, it sounds like you're all, you know, working on really interesting, varied, challenging projects and spaces. I'm going to ask you to take a step back now and think about, I guess, when you were considering moving into postgraduate study. Um, and I suppose I would just be really interested to hear your thoughts on why you chose the master's programs that you did, and maybe why Glasgow. Um, and I guess, did you already have the career idea in mind? Maybe what you're doing now. So yeah, I suppose just that kind of thought process as to why you chose the masters that you did. So where would we go? Let's go with Irene first this time.
Yes. It's actually quite complex, I'd say, for me because I was in oil and gas before, so I had
Okay.
made a living, burning fossil fuels and whatever. It was so the thing is, with oil and gas, it's never going to be sustainable. We know that. In
Hmm.
my case, it was pretty obvious because the reserve were told to be depleted. And with COVID in 2020, it made things a whole lot worse. Saw, some people just got laid off basically because of COVID, and nobody wants to buy your gas, nobody wants to buy your oil. So, it's just operational efficiency in the end of the day. So I was thinking to myself, I was 24 back then. I was thinking like, no, there's no way that I could, sustainably go into this career path for a long time because look at me now. I mean, I was so scared about, not having, anything to do tomorrow or like the next week because, people can just get like cut off like that.
Mm.
It's just business really. And that's what, brought me into thinking about going into the sustainable energy space. I
Okay.
had yeah, I had some talks with my superiors in my previous company too. And well, we were in oil and gas, so obviously we always had eyes on the North Sea, right? We are always monitoring whatever's happening in the North Sea. And during that time, I think Equinor was making a big leap with carbon capture, and also, a lot of offshore wind were being built by Shell and lots of other players. So I was just thinking to myself, really, like, I think that space is going to be, really sustainable for the long term. I want to get in, and I started looking around, and obviously, Glasgow Uni is massive in terms of energy. I mean, with James Watt, it's already a big, big brand, in the whole world. Everybody knows that.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that was the main reason for me to actually, go for an education in energy space in the UK because it's already so advanced. And with I've already mentioned with how I've got, into the university in the first place because of the help from British Council. Because I mean, it's quite expensive to actually, take the leap, go abroad, and then just, start your
Mhm.
whole new life.
Sure.
And yeah, those are probably the two main things that really, drive me to choose the program that I did at Glasgow. Really.
Okay. And it's, yeah, and exciting to see, isn't it, that whole kind of journey from like you say, where you were to the idea, to doing the course, to achieving the goal of working in the space that you are. So Tom, what about you? Do you want to say a little bit about why you chose the master's program that you did at Glasgow?
Okay, thank you so much for that. So for the most part, I think so. COVID was, I think, it really inspired a lot of people, right? I mean, with the oil and gas, issue at the time, you realize that renewable energy, had shown a lot of potentials, right? And at the time, I was always checking out for during COVID, I was still in my bachelor's degree. So I think I was like finishing. That was my final year, I think. Yeah. So I started looking at what exactly is, stopping renewable energy, right? From mass implementation, at least. And then I realized that the energy conversion, right, from renewable sources is still not in the economically viable point, right? Still not at that point yet. So I kind of like looked at what are the exact things, right, that can help us fix this. And catalysts, and I mean, most of the things we use these days have been made possible by very excellent catalysts, meaning that if you put 100 gram of feedstock, you get maybe a 95 gram of product, right? So meaning if you can get a new catalyst and a very efficient one, you could do a lot, right? So I was looking for programs and I checked out, so University of Glasgow, I mean, it's a very high ranking school if you look at it, yeah. So as like Irene said, it's kind of expensive. I mean, I come from Nigeria, so it's the move is really huge, right? Currency wise, the conversion rate and all of that. Yeah, so I saw the Master of Research program at the University of Glasgow in industrial heterogeneous catalysis, and it was very, the course content, everything was pretty detailed, right?
Mhm.
So I mean, it had a lot of content: how to prepare catalysts, how to characterize, how to, basically screen catalysts and all of that. So that was the first step, right? Understand how catalysts work, get all of those basics, do experiments on them and all of that. But then the challenge was money. So, like Lucy mentioned, in 2022, I applied for the African and Caribbean Excellence Scholarship. I think it was at the time it was just for 10 international scholars from Africa and the Caribbean. I think they've increased it to 15 now. I was checking it yesterday. I was trying to send the link to one of my colleagues back in uni. So anyway, so I did the interview, and Lucy was on the panel. It was good. So I kind of like feel a bit relaxed now, right? Because I remember during the interview I was a bit tense, right? Yeah. So I got in, and let's just say it's been a good run since then. Yeah. So I think it's a move that changed a lot if you look at it. So yeah,
Oh,
I'm always
absolutely.
proud of it. Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no, absolutely. You should be. Uh, and Oscar, how about you in terms of I guess the choice of coming to Glasgow and studying what you
Yeah,
did?
yeah, sure. First of all, I think it's really interesting to hear Tom's and Irene's experiences, um, because I actually it resonates a lot with my experience too. Um, well, mainly my background is in marine biology, and I was working for a bunch of years in the marine biology sector, um, working for government and also for other NGOs, for example. And my background was really into natural sciences, so I was like a really research person looking at mainly numbers, and I felt that I needed a little bit more training on kind of like widening my skills and my point of view from what sciences are like and are more applicable into kind of like the real situations and the real world and to different industries. So I wanted to basically expand my knowledge into the application of this interdisciplinary approach for environmental challenges. So I was looking into different options, and definitely when I saw the Earth Futures program in Glasgow, it really stand out because it had a lot of the coursework was really interesting in terms of kind of binding the natural and social sciences and doing this intersection, that I was really appealing for me. And also because I mean the University of Glasgow, it's really has a strong reputation on research and also strong reputation on environmental aspects. So for me, it was basically, well, Glasgow stand up as my first option when I was looking for that type of program where I can have many expertise from many teachers put together into one program. And I think that that was also really helpful for me when studying here, because I could reach out to really technical people, to say like this, and also to people that were looking more into, I mean, like conducting interviews or like doing different workshops and um, more on the social science side of things, that I think it was really helpful, and I really enjoyed it.
So it sounds like that kind of range of cross-disciplinary approach and the knowledge that has given you, Oscar, and the skills that I guess you will have gained as a result of that. That sounds, from how you described your role at the beginning, as something that you're using in your role all the time. Is that a fair kind of understanding?
Yes, definitely. I mean, because I work for looking at, I mean, mainly fisheries sustainability. I think that as any kind of like natural resource, um, yeah, sector or area, is not mainly looking at environmental aspects or like being able to kind of like measure or predict what it's going to happen. It's more on trying to prevent and assess those challenges, those
Mm,
issues, right? And for that, you need to include kind of like the society or the human factor within those decisions.
yeah.
And I think that before coming to the MSc, um, I was really siloed into natural sciences, I said like that, and looking into numbers and models and different, um, and I was not getting this perspective on how important it's the human aspect within the natural resource management.
Mm.
Um, and I think that that kind of like is my biggest takeaway, I would say, from the program that I'm applying constantly within my current role.
Okay, that's really interesting. And sticking with with your masters and the programs, I'm really interested to hear if any of you did a sort of practical experience or connected with industry or had a sort of placement opportunity as part of their program. Oscar, I can see you're nodding. If you don't mind coming in again, then it would be really interesting to hear about that kind of experience, I guess, and maybe what impact that had on your experience and your learning as well.
Yes, sure. So, well, the program that I did in Earth Futures had a course that was called work placement. So you basically can get hands-on experience on working during 3 or 4 months for an organization. Obviously, you have different choices based on what is your particular interest or what area you have more experience or want to get more experience on that. But the main thing is that for me, being an international student, it was really helpful to get hands-on experience also in the UK with with an organization, right? So I basically chose an NGO that was working in the Isle of Arran here in Scotland.
Okay, what was
And
what was the name of the NGO?
the name is Ghost. So it's the community. Um, well,
Putting
the
you on the
acronym,
spot now to remember the acronym.
yeah, the acronym is Ghost, but it's an organization that works basically manages a marine protected area in the Isle of Arran, and does all the like studies, the baseline studies, and also does a lot of policy and advocacy for marine conservation. So I got a lot of experience working with them, and actually I still have contact with them in my current job.
Great.
I still reach out to them, and I think that we established a good working relationship within that time. So I think it was really valuable for me to get that that experience and working here in the UK too.
Brilliant. It really brings things to life, I think, doesn't it? What you're learning in your course when you get the chance to do that kind of thing. I don't know, Irene or Tom, have you had any similar kind of experience or opportunities on your programs to connect with employers or with industry? Irene, you've unmuted, so
Yeah,
interested to hear what you have
that
to
was
say.
that's all a bit of a cue for you. So sorry, Tom, for that.
Got to be quick.
Well, I don't want to make it sound like I'm bragging, but the Sustainable
No.
Energy program, well, in fact, had a mentorship program that we did in jointly with Corn Ferry. So Corn Ferry 8 is a global headhunting company, if I'm not mistaken. I hope I got it right. And it was sort of like a matchmaking between students and industry experts. So, for example, one of my very lucky cohort back in the Sustainable Energy program had been match made with someone from the NV, which is a massive, massive consultancy in the energy transition space in Europe. And I think at the end of the day, she even managed to get a job from that interaction. So
That's
I think
great.
it was massively great. Yeah, it helped a
Mm.
lot. Yeah.
And what did you take away from that experience from your
Yeah. Well, in my experience, I mean, it's tailored because every student get a different mentor. From
okay?
my side, I was like match made with someone from the supply chain side of the business, so I wouldn't say that it really, had a lot of impact to what I'm doing right now, but it obviously, gives me with, a lot of insights into how the industry is just working. I didn't know before that we had such a scarcity in terms of, getting some wind turbines or some rotors to get them into Scotland because demand is so high all over the
Mm.
world. So that's probably one part of it.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's a bit of breadth, isn't it? It's sort of
Yeah.
growing your knowledge and your experience. Tom, whether you want to add something to this?
Yeah. All right. Thank you. I did my master's was more of a research. It was master of research.
Mm.
So the interesting part is that So unlike conventional masters, well, research masters where it's solely just lab scale kind of, experiment and stuff, right? I mean, we did experiments in the lab, but the point is it was an industrial heterogeneous catalysis program. So the larger aim was to try to like introduce you to catalysts, but you know, industry valid catalyst, right? And I think the other interesting part was that we had industry experts, right? Like researchers that worked in industry. We had people from ICI, we had people from INEOS, come to like it gives you a different feeling when you're doing experiments can be very demoralizing, especially if you think about it as it's just one of those things you do in the lab, right? But
Mhm.
with industrial application, it gives you, this sense of belonging that you are doing something, interesting, something serious, right? So we had these, industry experts. We had some classes with them, and they also share their experiences, doing research in industry, developing catalysts, testing catalysts, doing all this kind of stuff, and telling you times where catalysts they were so optimistic that the catalyst would work, right? After spending a lot of money on it, right? Only to find out that it wasn't gonna give the result that was needed. So
Mhm.
that it was a good perspective, right? And also, I think it's part of why I kind of like I'm now an advocate about the fact that PhD doesn't mean you need to be in academia, right? There are
Yeah.
industrial researchers. Industry is always looking for researchers, right? If you can, understand how well, research development moves from lab to industrial scale, right? Yeah, so you can always want to go to industry if you want to. So for me, I think it kind of influenced my future plans. Yeah, so it was a good experience. Yeah, thank
That's
you.
brilliant. It's so interesting to hear from all of you that, what that adds to your experience, I think, doesn't it, in terms of just kind of insight and breadth of knowledge and applying and understanding what you're learning theoretically to, to that kind of real world feel and setting. Outside of your program, um, obviously at the university there's the career service and there's careers events and there's different sort of things available. Um, did any of you use the sort of the support that was there, or kind of connect with any of the events and things that were happening on campus while you were at Glasgow?
I'll probably start off because I need to
Excellent.
give credit to whoever is maintaining the career hub, essentially, because I got into my current role, finding the ad through the Glasgow Uni's career hub,
Oh,
as well as
fantastic.
yeah,
That's
it's
great.
fantastic. I've never found it through Indeed, through LinkedIn, but it was just the
Okay.
career hub really. And I also got a part-time job when I was still studying in the uni as an
Yeah.
assistant consultant for another like hydrogen kind of research consultancy. So
Oh,
I think
brilliant.
that
So again,
really
something
helped.
kind of related to
Yes,
your
yeah,
studies. Fantastic.
which I think really helped with the application process anyway. So yeah, massive thanks for that. I think the career department also had lots of interesting events to look at. Uh, there were lots of career fairs as long as I can remember, even though
Yeah.
I've never really had a chance to attend any of them. But it's a great thing to have.
Okay. That's brilliant. I shall pass that on to some sort of colleagues that work in that space.
Please,
That's really fantastic to hear.
yeah.
I don't know, Tom,
Okay.
you've unmuted.
Yeah. So I just well, not exactly me, but so I had a colleague, right, when we were doing masters in Glasgow. So she got a job in London. Yeah, so the internship fair, all the career, talks and all those programs, we actually very helpful, right? Again, for me, I'd already kind of thought of the things I wanted to do after Glasgow, right?
Mhm.
So all I needed was to look for the right projects. I like calling it projects because you can start a PhD in something that is not exactly what you want to do, right? So, well, at the time I was looking for projects, but yeah, this is not about me, but it's about my friend. So I think, yeah, it's a good way of trying to help students, with future plans and all of that. So as a witness, I would always give it a yes.
And so just while you're mentioning that and talking about that, it would be interesting for you just to say a little bit actually as well about how you um, how you applied for and found and got on to the PhD at Oklahoma. What was the kind of the route, if you like, from your masters into that space?
Okay. Yeah. So it's an interesting discussion. I mean, each time I talk about it. So uh, I was looking out for projects, right? Again, I had plans. I had the things I wanted to do, which is mostly, catalyst for, renewable energy applications or maybe alternative energy applications, right? So I was looking for positions, and then I remember on LinkedIn, I kind of like I used to I had like specific keyword search, right? So catalysis, renewable energy, and you know how search algorithms work. You have any of those, it's just going to pop up, right? So I got a notification about an open project, and the professors were hiring at the time, right? So I went through the content of what the project was going to be, the tools that I was going to use, right? I mean, they were mostly computational tools, and it was exciting for me, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, so I reached out, like every other interview, you submit your CV, submit what you're doing, your experience, your research experience, and all of that. And then we had the interview. Then they got back, and we had the second one. And then finally they were like, "Okay, cool. Just apply to the school, right?" And I applied, and I was accepted. And when I was accepted, it was a smooth transition. So finishing from Glasgow, I was supposed to start. Interestingly, I was supposed to start in September last year,
Mhm.
but I wasn't done with my dissertation in Glasgow, right? So I had to move the start date. Yeah. So yeah, it's I mean, different people have different experiences when you talk about trying to apply for PhD, especially if you're moving countries, right? Some
Yeah.
people apply directly, but for me, that was like the route. Again, I was looking for something that is gonna really reward, the years of of research. Again, PhD teaches you a lot, right? Use how to use different tools, even when you don't know how to use them, but it gives you that independence to do that. Yeah. So
I think that's really interesting as well that you used LinkedIn so
yeah,
effectively to
yeah,
to do that
yeah.
as well. Oscar, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to this, whether you kind of connected with any other the kind of career support that was available on campus when you were at Glasgow.
Yes, well, I've mainly used the career service platform, and um, also put like different keywords for finding job opportunities. But for me, what it was more helpful within the transition of getting a new job was the section where you provide different techniques and tools for revamping your CV,
Yeah.
doing these different cover letters, how to approach different interviews,
Mhm.
kind of how to present yourself and provide different aspects of what you're doing and explain well what are your skills and experiences and how you can link them into your new job. So I think that service of the platform, that was
Mhm.
really helpful for me, mainly for finding a job.
Okay. And I've got before I ask you that, you'll be pleased to hear the last question. Just from we're kind of touching on, what you've moved on to and finishing your time at Glasgow. I suppose I'm just wondering if you're still in touch with some of your other fellow students, um, and what sort of things do you know what sort of roles and directions that maybe some of them have taken from studying the same course as you. It would be quite interesting to hear maybe the kind of variety of different things that people have gone on to do. Irene, what about
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah. this is something that I'm really pleased to be talking about because I was the class rep for my student cohort, so it's always interesting to keep having someone to talk back to me after they've got a milestone in their lifetime. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm actually working with one of my really close friend in my current firm right now. So I kind of
Oh, I think Irene's frozen. I think she might have done. Oscar, do you want to
Yes, I
maybe
can. I
say a
can
little
jump.
bit, and hopefully Irene will be able to
Yeah.
come
Yes, no
back
worries.
on.
I can jump in
Thank
right
you.
now. So yes, I still keep in touch with a bunch of my colleagues from the program, and I mean, it's really interesting to see what they're doing because I mean the cohort or the background from the people from the cohort was really broad, right? So I was coming with a background in marine biology, but I had colleagues that were coming from background of engineering, others from psychology, others from journalism and things like that, right? So it's good to see that most of, I mean, all of them have found their right fit for their jobs. Some of them are working in other consultancy firms. Some of them are working more on the kind of like carbon reduction sector, so like this, or being like carbon advisors. Others are working for different companies in transport, for example. So I think that it's really interesting to see how the program that I did actually gave the foundations for all of them to be able to get jobs into the environmental sector or environmental sustainability sector.
Yeah, no, it's always really interesting, isn't it, to kind of see how people progress and where they go, and all the various points where you end up kind of coming across one another as well. So thank you for that, Irene. Fantastic. We've got you back.
so
So
sorry for that.
yeah, no, I'm glad you were able to come back on. So yeah, you were just going to maybe tell us a little bit about yeah, maybe where some of your fellow students have gone on, the kind of
Yeah.
things they've gone on to do.
Yeah, well, I'm actually working side by side with one of my best mate from uni. Actually, I kind of just throw the job ad in the group chat, and then yeah, finally we are working together now in the same company, although in a very different space. She's working towards the more the kind of distributed power, so just focusing on that specific topic. And one of the I think one of the brightest students of the cohort is actually back into Thailand. He's part of the army but serving as an electrical engineer, but now
Mhm.
being equipped with more insights about sustainable energy. I think he's striving even more. And I do know that lots of the cohorts for my program is starting out as a graduate, with major Scottish industries like Scottish Power, and we're also talking about, SSEN and the other ones too. So
Mm.
yeah, I think everyone's finally, found their spark.
Yeah,
Yeah, just kind of, trying to just, apply whatever they can do with the knowledge that we've already got.
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you. And Tom, I don't know, I guess same question for you. Are you aware of some of the different routes and directions that the students that you did the masters with have gone on to do? Oh,
I don't know. Can you hear me properly?
yes, yes. I think we
Yeah, it
lost
seems
you,
like
but you're back.
my audio has a problem. I don't know, probably some internet issue. Anyway, yeah. So for me, my research program we were just two, right? But again, we had other people that were doing masters in chemistry, just normal regular masters. So I think for my colleague, she got a PhD position, but I'm not sure she took the offer. I don't think so. But again, from the Master of Science class, I had a few colleagues that I knew at the time, and I think I know at least three or four of them that are working. And for the most part, I think they're working in mostly like chemical, companies and stuff like that.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, I think that's all of the people I know at this time. I mean, but I believe most likely others would might have gotten into better opportunities. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fab. Listen, you've been fantastic, and it's been really, really interesting hearing about your experiences. So I've got one final question for you all, um, and I suppose it's really, what advice would you give to someone who's thinking about
Sorry.
maybe?
Can you give me like a second? Just like a second. Let me try and
Of
fix
course.
my audio because it's not working properly.
Okay, I'm going to give Tom a second to do that. And what I'm going to do, Irene and Oscar, I'll ask you a different question while we're hopefully waiting for Tom to come back. And I suppose I was just wondering, what are your sort of what are the sort of fondest memories that you'll maybe take away from being at Glasgow, being at the university and studying in the city? Either of you, whoever would like to come in.
I mean, it can be really really personal or not. Well, but I guess academically it was great. It was challenging. I had really, great supervisor supervising me with my dissertation, so that also really helped a lot. But the fondest memory that I can think of during about my time, studying at Glasgow was actually to find my partner. So yeah, I
That happens. That happened to
we
me as
met
well
we
when I
met
was
at the
an
library.
undergraduate
Oh, that's
at
that's
Glasgow.
so amazing. That's amazing. Yeah, that's one of the fondest I think memory that I have from my time being here. But also the friendship that I've got is amazing. As I've told you, I was
Mm,
the class. What do we call them?
right.
Not class president, class rep. Yeah, you're right. And with having that sort of responsibility, I got to like interface with lots of people. We had lots
Mm.
of study sessions, which really kind of bring us together. So yeah, great time indeed.
And if any of you were to give any advice now, I suppose, to anybody who's considering studying for the masters or wanting to move into your field, what would that piece of advice be?
Um, this is really easy kind of thing for me to say because the energy space it's ever evolving. I think everyone knows about how things are really quickly changing within the energy space. We're moving away from all the coals we are burning to producing electricity more greenly, and energy is such a broad topic. There's a space for everyone, whether you are a mathematician, you're an engineer, you're a storyteller, you like to engage with people even more. So, I mean, there's always a space for everyone. So, what I can say is that if you want to, I mean, obviously you can look and start looking earlier. That will be better because we're transitioning right now, and this is such a great moment for everyone who wants to give it a go, to actually learn and progress along as we go.
Perfect. Thank you. Tom, I'll come to you and hope that it's it's working okay for you. But yeah, I suppose we were just sort of doing a bit of a double-edged final question, I suppose. Any kind of particularly nice memories or from your time at Glasgow, and then just a sort of, I guess, a final piece of advice, if you were to share any for a student who would maybe be thinking about doing the masters that you did at Glasgow.
Okay, can you hear me? Is it audible enough?
Yeah, I think we're okay.
Okay, good. I was lucky. I had experience to work in two different labs, right? So I was working with two different professors, and they had their own lab group and all of that, and it was good. I felt kind of cool, being in the lab with them. You know. learning from different professors, also interacting with different group members and all of that. So I mean, we used to have some fun times where we kind of make some jokes, right? It was good, yeah. Yeah, so it's I think for me, if you're interested in catalysis, right, it's a good time with respect to the transition that is going on, right? The renewable energy space. There's a lot of opportunities that exist in that end. Because again, like I said, people are trying to look at how to develop new materials that can efficiently convert, renewable energy sources. So yeah, the master's program at the University of Glasgow it's a good start. All right, it's a good start. So yeah, it was fun. I kind of was telling my friend yesterday that I just thought about Glasgow and I was like, I think I miss Glasgow.
But not the weather, probably.
Oh yeah, not that bad.
It's sunny today. It's definitely sunny today. And Oscar.
Yes, I would say that what I really liked about studying at Glasgow University, I mean, was mainly Glasgow as a city. I think it's amazing. I think it's a really a place that I like living in. Well, by the way, I'm still at Glasgow, so a couple of years after. So that's how much I like living here. um, and the second thing, I think that just the campus is amazing. Like I used to just stay for a few hours, just like staring at the old building and wandering around the museum and looking at stuff there. So I think it was really great be there and just the people that you meet and all the kind of people that are equally minded that you that are passionate about what they do and they're really open to answer questions and share their experiences. So with that, I will jump into what I think an advice that I would give into new students. It will be just like stay curious and be open-minded. Try to explore many aspects of the field that you're interested in, and until you find what you like and what you're passionate about, and um, what do you like to do for the rest of the days, and stuff like that. And also be proactive on seeking opportunities, talking to teachers, looking for different internship opportunities while you are studying in Glasgow. And for the last thing, I would say that don't be afraid to ask for help and guidance. That usually people are really open into sharing their experiences and insights and how their experience on working on doing a master's or studying at the university or like moving to Glasgow or any other thing that will be willing to share with you gladly and will really helpful for you.
Okay, thank you. And that's a lovely way, I think, to bring our conversation to an end. I've thoroughly enjoyed speaking to you all this afternoon, and it's been really fantastic to hear about what you're doing now. It all sounds, so interesting and so much opportunity, I think, in the sectors and the spaces that you're in. And to hear about your really positive experiences of studying at Glasgow. And I wish you nothing but the best in whatever comes next.